This is Southern Cross News with Joe Palmer.
Good evening everyone and welcome to Southern Cross News. There's been massive political drama on what was meant to be a standard ceremonial opening of the new parliament. Newly elected Liberal member Sue Hickey broke ranks and beat the government's own nomination for Speaker. Our reporter Michael Breen joins us now live. Michael, good evening. What does this mean and why is it so significant?
Well, Joe, Sue Hickey has essentially gone rogue from the Liberal Party in accepting the Speaker's position. The government wanted to put forward Breen, but in a shock, she accepted the nomination put forward by Labor and seconded by the Greens. The government only has a one-seat majority and will be relying on Sue Hickey's vote. Let's take a look at how the dramatic day unfolded. The pomp and ceremony of the opening day of Parliament after the Liberals were returned at the state election with a one-seat majority. Parliamentarians going through the motions of what most thought would be a standard and procedural day.
I move that Marinus Theodore Breen do take the chair of this House as Speaker.
Is that motion seconded?
I second it.
A jovial atmosphere as the government put forward its nomination for Speaker of the House of Assembly. Little did members know a shock was to come from the Labor leader.
I move that Suzanne Lynette Hickey do take the chair of the House as Speaker.
Backed up by the Greens.
I second the nomination.
Is the nomination accepted?
It is.
Members of the Liberal Party turning to each other in shock as one of their own went rogue, accepting the position. The Premier turning to Sue Hickey and shaking his head as a secret ballot secured her the position by one vote. Breen puts it down to politics.
What's your reaction though? I'm fine with that. Look, it's democracy and democracy in a parliament is where it belongs and, today it went a certain way and I'm okay with that.
A line of cars heading to Government House this afternoon to make the appointment official. Sue Hickey flanked by the leaders of the Labor and Green parties who put forward her nomination.
I didn't know whether or not Sue Hickey would accept the nomination, but she did, and a majority of parliamentarians voted for her to be the Speaker of the House of Assembly.
This has been with the Greens and Sue Hickey on this?
I haven't spoken to Sue Hickey about this matter prior to nominating her today. I did have a conversation with the Greens about whether or not they would be interested in supporting a motion like this. Obviously, Cassie did second the motion, so it shouldn't be a surprise to anybody.
So will you be voting with the government? Political pundits say that's the key question.
With only a one-seat majority and relying on the Speaker as the casting vote, someone who's already turned on the government makes life a bit precarious for the government.
It's a rocky start for Tasmania's 49th Parliament, officially opened by the Governor today.
In a fast-paced and changing world, the people of Tasmania put their trust in the Liberal government to provide certainty and stability for their future.
Stability now the key issue hanging over Tasmania's Parliament after a day of pomp and ceremony and plenty of surprises.
So Michael, what does this mean now for the government?
Well, Joe, it's uncertain times. Sue Hickey hasn't directly responded to our question, will she vote with the government? We received a statement from the Premier a short time ago saying the Speaker remains a member of the Liberal Party and has guaranteed supply and confidence for his government. Sue Hickey could have been unhappy she didn't score a ministry in Will Hodgman's cabinet. Her relationship with the Liberal Party is now key to the functioning of Parliament. So very uncertain times, Joe, and there's sure to be more reaction in Parliament tomorrow.
Yes, I imagine there will be. Thank you very much for that, Michael Breen, joining us there. And in another Parliament Day 1 twist, the state government has backed down on its proposed Taswater takeover. Rather than owning the company, it now wants to be a shareholder. Labor describing the back down as humiliating and says we're in for a rough ride.
former foes now signing business partners.
This is a win for all concerned, but importantly, it is a win for consumers and the people of Tasmania.
The state government, TasWater and the Local Government Association agreeing to work together to improve the state's water and sewerage services and keep down rising water costs.
Our aim throughout all of this has been to deliver lower prices and, importantly, a quicker fix to the infrastructure.
Under the proposed new agreement, the government will invest $200 million into TasWater over the next 10 years and become a shareholder. Local councils will maintain ownership, but the government will have a 50% say in the corporate plan and the selection of board members. The government will not receive a dividend. TasWater says the agreement will guarantee a cap on water prices, including a price freeze for the 2019-2020 year.
But just as importantly, the parties will work together to tackle projects such as the possible relocation of Macquarie Point treatment plant and addressing the issues associated with the combined system in Launceston.
This agreement acknowledges the commitment shared by state and local governments in achieving a safe, sustainable and affordable water and sewerage industry in Tasmania.
But it's an agreement that's taken almost 18 months to get to. The government spent much of last year in a standoff with councils and TasWater about the ownership.
What we've seen today from the Tasmanian government, and particularly the Treasurer, Peter Gutwin, is probably the most humiliating backdown we've seen in Tasmanian politics for over a decade.
For the proposed new plan to become official, it will first need to be supported by the state's 29 councils and then pass through both houses of Parliament. Mayors we spoke to today believe it's a good way forward and a good compromise to the initial hostile takeover.
We support the principles behind this because it's effectively the Labor Party position. We'll look at the legislation, we'll look at the details.
Monica Dadson at Southern Cross News.
Protesters have taken to Hobart's Parliament lawns today, calling for a solution to the state's housing crisis. Occupy Tasmania is setting up several tents, demanding the government take action.
Down. We're not moving, we're not leaving, and we're not going to be bullied into being told to move on. If they don't want people sleeping on our lawns, we don't want people sleeping on the streets. We want people home.
Today we're making a statement. This needs to be fixed. We need to get the discussion rolling and we can no longer put the homeless issue under the rug.
Protesters will remain outside Parliament indefinitely. Meanwhile, Tasmanian property prices continue to rise, with Hobart the standout performing housing market in yet another real estate report. According to Core Logic, property values in the state's capital increased 1.2% this month and almost 13% in the year.
Listed for sale is about 38% lower than it was 12 months ago. So you've got a lot of people wanting to buy into that market and not really very much stock available for sale, and that's obviously pushing up the cost of housing.
Figures from Domain yesterday also revealed Hobart house price increases are the strongest of the state capitals. Those with a thirst may be tempted to try the world's oldest beer. Yeast salvaged from a 2 centuries-old shipwreck off the coast of Tasmania is being used to make an ale rich in both taste and history.
You won't get an ale more ancient than this, a new brew using yeast from 220 years ago.
This is the oldest known beer brewing yeast in the world, by far.
It's come from beer bottles found on the Sydney Cove, which was wrecked off Tasmania's coast. Brewers from across the world tried to get their hands on the small sample, but James Squire's Malt Shovel Brewery in Sydney has the honour, calling its new concoction The Wreck and producing a small test batch in preparation for a commercial run.
Been a year all up because we just really want to take our time with this and get a really cracking beer out of it.
James Squire was one of the original brewers in Sydney, so we've got this fabulous historical link with Tasmania, the early settlement of Sydney.
Local scientists spent 2 years isolating the yeast and bringing it back to life. Luckily, Bass Strait's icy cold waters preserved the ingredient for all those years.
As you can imagine, over 220 years in a bottle, it was a little bit sleepy to wake up.
The question on everyone's lips, what will it taste like? Well, I'm told the Wreck will be a porter with hints of spice, but we won't be able to try the finished product until later this month.
Tom Johnson, Southern Cross News.
Young drivers are being reminded to stay safe on the roads as part of National Road Safety Week. With almost a third of crashes involving drivers aged between 17 and 25, police say it's time for change.
Sam Cawthorne was just 26 when he fell asleep at the wheel and collided head-on with a truck in 2006. The crash changing his life forever.
I found myself, just simply crying. And not because I was sad for myself, but I was more sad that my kids would have to grow up with a disabled father.
He told his story at a symposium in Hobart today for Road Safety Week. The focus this year, young drivers taking risks on the roads.
We really need to look at how we improve the skills of our young drivers on the road. They are overrepresented in death and serious injuries. Between 17 and 25, they're 11% of drivers, 30% of casualties.
This is a time in brain development where your drive to be impulsive and motivate and rewarded and explore the world is really important, so that also increases your tendency towards risk.
Tasmania Police will be conducting high visibility patrolling this week, with mobile phone usage a key target.
Many of the young people are trying to do the right thing, and certainly we're seeing a lot less inappropriate driving by them. However, inattention is the biggest issue for young people with technology.
The time you went and looked at your mobile phone to look at a text, if you shut your eyes while you were driving, you'd never do that. But here are people just taking their eyes off the road.
A lasting warning to all drivers. Ruby Kamain, Southern Cross News.
It's an event which helps to raise vital funds and awareness for a cause which affects so many Tasmanians. And this morning, Hobart's Government House was the location for the official launch of the Cancer Council's upcoming Biggest Morning Tea.
The event's been running for 21 years in Tasmania, and over that time it's something like 13,000 Biggest Morning Tea events we've held, and Tasmanians have raised over $5 million for Cancer Council. So it's a fabulous event, longevity, and I think it'll be here for a long time to come.
We've all had a member, if not more than one member, in a family who's had cancer, and so I think we appreciate, how important it is.
This year will see around 800 registered morning teas taking place around the state, with more than $300,000 expected to be raised on May 31. The Tasmanian Men's Shed is downing tools to focus on building health. A new program called Healthy Shed is aiming to get participants increasing their physical activity and improving their mental well-being. Today's first session included a range of team building exercises.
At first I thought it was going to be something very serious, but it's quite light-hearted yet informing at the same time.
The Ravenswood Men's and Community Shed will run the program over 14 weeks. In an attempt to boost the number of medical professionals working in rural Tasmania, university students are this week learning firsthand what it's like. Second-year students today touring the Royal Flying Doctor Service hangar as part of the University of Tasmania's Rural Week.
Especially in Tasmania, it's obviously a very rural place, and a lot of our patients, whether in the city or the country, will be rural, so we need to know what services are out here for them.
There are many inequities in, health across Australia, and health in the rural areas is poorer, and so that's something that we need to tackle.
Students will also visit hospitals, farms and nursing homes. Now let's take a look at the day's business and finance news with thanks to Tasplan, your local super fund. Australian shares have closed above the 6,000 point mark for the first time in 2 months after a surge in banking stocks lifted the market. The ASX 200 index has risen by 32.5 points. A short time ago, the Australian dollar was trading at 75.29 US cents and 62.43 euro cents.
Well, he's one of the most talented and well-recognised footballers the state has ever produced. And now at just 29 years of age, Jack Riewoldt is set to join a long list of greats when he's inducted into the Tasmanian Football Hall of Fame. The high-flying Richmond star was just 16 when he booted 4 goals for Clarence in the side's 2005 SFL Grand Final, and it was clear the young Tasmanian was destined for the big stage, drafted the very next year.
I remember growing up and playing footy with my idols. There were guys at the Clarence Football Club, guys like Gavin Cooney, Brad Dutton, who I wanted to turn into. Now, not household names, but They were the guys that I idolised.
Now a two-time Coleman medalist, two-time All-Australian and eight-time Richmond leading goal kicker, the Tigers vice-captain is set to be immortalised alongside Tasmania's best of all time, including his father Chris, who was inducted in 2010.
Being recognised by your home state to be worthy of the honour is something that I'm really proud of, and certainly sits right next to the Premiership of 2017.
Reid Walt will be officially inducted at the Hall of Fame Gala dinner on June 23, but unlike his fellow inductees, it will be straight back to business the following day as he and the Tigers chase back-to-back flags.
Look, it'll be a bit of a fly-in, fly-out night for me. Look, it's our bye week, but we're training on the Saturday and training on the Sunday, so I'll be down for the night. Something I know that post-football career I'll probably look back on very fondly and hold it up there with some of the greatest achievements of my career.
Good evening. A warm day around the state today, well, comparatively speaking. Hobart 23 degrees, Launceston 20, Burnie and Devonport 19 degrees. Campania and Fingal wound back the clock a couple of months, turning on a 25 today, 10 degrees up on average. St Helens recorded 23, Grove, Ouse, King Island and Friendly Beaches 22, Lyawini 19, a bit cooler on Flinders with 18, Strawn and Low Head 17 degrees. There is an area of low cloud along with a mid to high band that moved over the southwest of Tasmania today and a fair bit off the south and Western Maritime. More cloud is moving with a cold front over southern parts of Western Australia. That's joined to our region by a jet stream. Tropical cyclone Flamboyant is approaching from the Indian Ocean. Now, tomorrow a trough and decaying front will move over the Bight with another to the west. The high has developed a second heart over the Tasman Sea. North to northwesterly winds at 10 to 20 knots over the north and east of the state, increasing over the west and south later, swells between 2 and 3 metres. Hobart a cloudy 19 tomorrow, 18 for Geefton, 17 for Bothwell. Fairly cloudy but fine over most of the state, including Launceston, 20 the top, 19 for Devonport and 18 for Cressy. Similar forecast for Burnie with a top of 17, 19 for Strawn and Curry on King Island, 19 as well. And in the east, partly cloudy, St Helens 20, 17 for Swansea and 19 for Orford. On Thursday, showers developing over the west in the morning, extending to the north in the afternoon. Rain tending to showers on Friday afternoon and clearing the northeast in the evening, and showers in the west and north on Saturday, pushing elsewhere during the afternoon and evening. A possible shower in Perth tomorrow, and that's about it for any wet weather apart from Cairns. Fine and partly cloudy for Adelaide, Melbourne, Canberra, Sydney and Brisbane. A sunny day in Darwin and 34 degrees. Not quite that here. 15 in Hobart and mostly clear also in Launceston, 12 at the moment and 14 currently in Devonport. From the fine weather today to the cloudy weather tomorrow, Jo, and then AgFest looks after the weather for the rest of the week.
Yes, it does, and we'll be there in our gumboots. Thank you very much, Merv. That's all from the team. Have a lovely evening. See you a bit later. Bye-bye.